All right, chat. The greatest worst spy ever by Primal Space. Let's check it out.
The element of surprise. When the Allied forces appeared over the horizon on the morning of D-Day, it completely caught the Nazis off guard. They weren't ready for such an enormous attack, at least not here. According to German intelligence, an attack was expected to take place 150 miles away in Calais.
I'm not gonna lie. The first time I ever learned about D-Day, it was Call of Duty D-Day or some shit like that, right? That's literally the first time I ever learned about D-Day. I thought it was a video game this entire time, and then people were like, "Oh no, that happened in real life too." I was like, "Oh shit, D-Day happened in real life." Oh
So
shit, I
most
did not
of their
know
troops
that.
had been moved to defend that location. While the Nazis were defending an empty beach, the Allies stormed their way into Normandy and ultimately went on to win the war. The Nazis had been tricked, and it was largely thanks to one man.
God damn, bro, what happened to his hairline? Chat.
The Nazis.
Oh
had
my
been
god,
tricked.
like I'm not even trying to be fucked up, but like, okay, if they won the war because of him, that shit stressed him the fuck. Okay, god
It was
damn, bro,
largely
what
thanks
happened?
to one man.
But he do got a big brain. God damn, that shit is about to pop out of his head.
Who had spent years trolling them from his own home. By feeding them correct but useless information, it led them down rabbit holes, slowed them down, and ultimately tricked them into losing the war. This man had no spying experience, and yet with sheer charisma and imagination, he managed to win the trust of Hitler, whilst simultaneously becoming Britain's best spy. Before the outbreak of World War II, Spain was having its own civil war between the Republicans and the Nationalists. No one despised the war more than Juan Puyol Garcia, a chicken farmer from Barcelona. His farm was taken by the government, his mother and sister were kidnapped, and he himself was forced to fight. He hated the extremism of both sides, so when World War II came along, he was determined to do something to stop the Nazis.
Yeah, I hate people who hate the war and stuff like that. Like, I like them. Wait, hold on. Okay, that sounded wrong. That's not what I mean. But by I hate is the fact that they first starting out, oh, I hate war. War destroyed my house. War destroyed my family. And then out of nowhere, when they become in power, they do worse shit. They go out and they start destroying people's family and stuff. You can't put 12 fingers on that. Oh, I know. I got, bro. I was like, god damn, bro. Look at that shit.
He went to the British embassy in Madrid and offered to start spying on the Germans.
No, but it sounds like he's smart. That's why he got big brains in there.
Had to come up with a different tactic. This time, he went to the German embassy, pretending to be a passionate Nazi supporter that worked for the Spanish government. At the time, the Germans didn't have a reliable spy network in Britain, and so they desperately needed all the help they could get. Puyol was hired. They gave him a codebook, a bottle of invisible ink, 3,000 pounds in cash, and told him to move to London and start spying on the British. Instead, he moved to Portugal and simply pretended to be reporting from London, using nothing but a map of Britain and a tourist.
I mean, chat, back then you can literally get away with so much shit because they didn't have phones, they didn't have GPS. You can be like, oh yeah, you want me to go to the UK, and then you can literally go to Brazil or somewhere like all the way out, and then just keep sending them emails. Yeah. So I'm reporting here back from London, and you're all the way like on the other side of the country. It's like no one can know. But nowadays it's like, oh, he's saying he's in London. What the fuck? His tracker says he's over there. Well, why is he lying to us?
Guy from his local library. He started talking about the.
Gonna watch a video right now, bet, bro. Thank you for watching. Go enjoy your time. Really appreciate it.
Places he was visiting.
Appreciate you tuning in.
Seeing, like military training exercises on Lake Windermere and warships leaving the Southwest. In between all of the military sightings, he filled his letters with mundane personal details, like going for walks in the center of London, visiting local cafes, and even mentioning when he was feeling ill. To take things even further, he started creating a network of sub-agents that were supposedly feeding him information from all over the country. There was the Swiss-German businessman stationed in Liverpool, the Venezuelan student in Glasgow, the Portuguese man living in Wales, and the pilot that had agreed to carry his letters from London. Each agent had a detailed backstory and family members that Puyol talked about at length. Of course, none of these people actually existed, but if the Germans ever called him out on anything, his sub-agents could take the blame, since they were the ones reporting the information. Each letter was so long and so detailed that the Germans started to believe him. They even started sending $500 a month to pay for his network of agents. That's $11,000.
Yeah, I was literally just about to say that. I'm like, chat, hold on. 500 back then was a lot of money, but he got us with the estimation.
In today's money. But this was only the beginning. So far, the Germans were impressed with Puyol's work, so they started asking more specific information. That's when things took an interesting turn. In his third letter, Puyol sent this report back to the Germans. A convoy of 18 ships left the port of Liverpool on the 28th of March. They were headed for the island of Malta. Although Puyol made the whole thing up, by sheer coincidence, a fleet of warships had actually left Liverpool around the same time. But before his letter ever reached the Germans, it was intercepted by Britain's intelligence agency, MI5, sending them into panic mode. A full-scale manhunt was launched to try to track down this mysterious network of spies, but unsurprisingly, they found nothing. It wasn't until they really started reading through Puyol's letters that they saw something odd. According to one of Puyol's agents, people in Glasgow will do anything for a liter of wine. This sentence gave it all away. A liter of wine? This really didn't reflect the typical Scottish drinking habits. In Britain,
Wine out of all the drinks you could have chosen. A liter of wine, brother. You could have said tequila. You could have said Hennessy. You could have said any of that. They probably would have believed the motherfucker said wine. Are they bitches down there? Oh yeah, you give them a liter of wine and they'll suck you off for it. It's like, what are we talking about here?
never used the metric system. The Brits then learned that the Germans had actually wasted time and resources trying to hunt down Puyol's fake convoy of ships heading to Malta. It became clear that whoever was writing these letters, they were feeding the Nazis false information to confuse them, and it was working. MI5 were so impressed that they tracked down Puyol and decided to turn him into a real British spy. And in April 1942,
God damn, getting your job that way, you gotta be honest. Like, bro, your resume is outstanding, but a spy. Now we need you on the
Puyol
job.
moved to London for real and was given the codename Garbo. Now, with access to real military information, he was about to take his trolling to the next level.
Now he
The
can
Allies
actually
were
fuck
planning
around
to
for
launch
real.
a surprise attack on the
Yo,
north coast
welcome
of
back.
Africa,
Appreciate
where Nazi
it.
forces were gaining
I
power.
don't know why I said free, but
And
hey,
so,
welcome
over
back.
the next few months, Garbo started dropping very specific hints, suggesting that an attack was instead being planned for Norway. One of his agents saw military mountaineering drills taking place and Canadian troops gathering in the east of Scotland. Another agent heard rumors of Russian troops advancing westward. Without ever mentioning Norway, he gradually painted the picture that it was the likely target, drawing the attention away from Africa.
This motherfucker was smart, chat. My bad, chat. We're broke here. We got ads. My bad,
Hitler
my bad.
himself was particularly worried about this attack and ended up moving hundreds of thousands of troops to protect the Norwegian borders. Garbo's next move was a stroke of genius. With the African invasion set to take place on the 8th of November, Garbo wrote another letter to the Germans, this time detailing exactly how the Allies were going to carry out the attack. He dated the letter the
Bro, this motherfucker was smart, chat. God damn, he saw that he sent the first letter. He was like, let's see if they fall for this one. And as soon as he took the bait, he was like, God damn, they're that stupid. I got this. And ever since, he started controlling them, basically.
1st of November, but purposely held onto it for another week. The letter arrived in the hands of the Germans on the 9th, but it was too late. The day before, the Allied forces invaded the North African coast with over 100,000 men.
God damn.
The letter had all the correct details of the invasion, but it was simply too late to be of any use. The Germans, however, were amazed by Garbo's work and replied, "We are sorry it arrived too late, but your last report was magnificent." Over the next several months, Garbo continued adding more members to his network, bringing the total to 27 spies. Of course,
I wish if
all
I
of
was
these
smart
agents
as this
had to be
motherfucker,
paid,
yeah.
and by the
God
end
damn.
of 1943, the Germans were sending Garbo over $100,000 a month to fund his network. They were so
A
pleased
month?
with the information that he was providing that they
He was finessing them and not just providing them with false information to lead them to war. They were paying him for it. Oh my God, God damn. They were literally paying him to fool them.
stopped hiring new spies.
Luckiest
from
man
Britain.
out there.
The
Luckiest man
network
out
now
there.
in full swing. It was time for Garbo's masterpiece, D-Day. Managing this whole operation was incredibly difficult, and it would have been a lot easier if he had Udo, today's sponsor. Udo is an all
Nah, okay, that was smooth as fuck. Okay, the way he walked into that sponsor, that was smooth as fuck. We gotta give it to him. But I think I'm gonna still skip it. But that
all-in-one
was smooth.
management software. All of it work. Add more administrative business. The first of accident was from over this off without different
wait.
nations. all arriving in over 100,000 vehicles.
That hella
Pulling this
crazy,
off
bro.
without the Germans suspecting a thing would be an enormous challenge, but Britain had the best man for the job. To avoid the information from arriving late like last time, the Germans told Garbo to start sending his messages via encrypted Morse code instead of letters. Garbo would first write his message in Spanish and break up the message into clusters of 5 characters. Then, consulting a code table, he would change each letter to jumble up the message. An operator would then start typing out the jumbled message into Morse code, which would be transmitted over radio to the Germans. With the ability to now send...
Bro, I'm not even gonna lie. I think humans coming up with Morse code is so crazy. Like, people don't really think about it, but bro, you're literally hearing beep 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 beep. It's like, and then you gotta be like, oh yeah, this is the letter A. This is the letter B. It's like, how? How do you know? All I'm hearing is beeps. What do you see?
The seeds of doubt that would make D-Day an enormous success. One of Garbo's agents who worked in the London Underground claimed that the tunnels were being extended towards the southeast and that ammunition was being moved down the tunnels. Another agent saw assault barges gathering at the port of Dover and convoys of Canadian troops arriving in Southampton. Garbo himself began inventing an entire army of US soldiers and reported large numbers of them gathering in the southeast. All of this activity pointed towards a massive attack on Calais, the closest point to England. In order to back up Garbo's lies, the Brits started planting real evidence all around the southeast.
Nah.
Fake airstrips were cut into fields, and hollow wooden planes were placed at the side.
That's sick.
German planes started bombing
That's
these
sick as
fake
fuck.
sites, so they knew it was working. A gigantic fake oil storage facility was set up in Dover, and photos of King George visiting the site were placed in the local newspaper. Hollywood-style
God damn, bro. They were plotting next level IQ shit. This is like 200 IQ moves right here.
movie sets were used to turn modest boats into enormous battleships, and inflatable tanks were placed everywhere. They had built up an entire army of fake soldiers, vehicles, and supplies that completely distracted the Germans from the real preparation that was going on for Normandy. The goal was to convince the Germans that even when the Normandy attacks began, the real and much larger attack would happen later in Calais. Amazingly, the British intercepted a conversation between Hitler and a Japanese ambassador, where Hitler mentioned that the first attack was going to be a decoy and that they were really preparing for the second attack elsewhere. By this point, it was clear that Garbo's messages were now landing directly on Hitler's desk, and he was believing everything. Whenever Garbo told them about...
I mean, chat, I did hear that Hitler used to take a lot of crack, so I'm not surprised of him believing all that bullshit. He did, that motherfucker, or not crack, wait, my bad. I forgot what drug it was, but he used to be on a lot of drugs, shit. This motherfucker was heavily drug addict. Stay away from drugs, kids. Stay away. Never do that.
In the southeast, the Nazis would move the pin on their map. They made the crucial decision to move hundreds of thousands of troops to defend Calais. That was hundreds of thousands of troops that wouldn't be in Normandy. June 5th, one day before D-Day. Although the German radio operators usually signed off at 11:30, Garbo insisted that tonight they should listen out for a message at 3 a.m. Big news was expected from one of his sub-agents. At 3 a.m., Garbo reported that vomit bags and rations had been handed out to soldiers. This could only mean one thing: the attack was about to happen. But hours went by and no response was received. The Germans had gone to sleep. The Allies rocked up to Normandy at 6:30, completely undercover, outnumbering the Germans by more than 3-1. It was a brutal day, but the Allies managed to secure their entrance into France, and over the next 6 weeks, continued piling troops, vehicles, and supplies in through the beaches of Normandy. Amazingly, the Nazis refused to move more troops to Normandy, and in fact, ended up sending more to defend Calais, waiting for the second attack that would never come. Every letter, every detail, every lie, and every truth had bamboozled the Germans, and it allowed the Allies to recapture Europe and win the war.
Oh my
Despite
God,
the
so they
defeat in
literally
letter,
didn't
every
even
blade.
end up sending their troops over here because they're like, oh, okay, chat. I mean, Hitler said chat, guys. No, but all jokes aside, he was like, okay, guys. So in the letters, he literally said that they're gonna attack this place. So do not send any troops over there. Ignore it. They're gonna come here sooner or later, and we're gonna intercept them here. But it was all a lie. All these letters were all a lie. So they never even came here, and they moved the troops over here for literally no reason. God damn, bro. That motherfucker was a mastermind. He did. He was a
For the
crackhead.
second
Yeah, he
attack
was a
that would
crackhead,
never
huh?
come.
I knew it was
Every
one of
letter,
them.
every detail, every lie, and every truth had bamboozled the Germans, and it allowed the Allies to recapture Europe and win the war.
GG's.
Despite the defeat,
GG's,
Hitler was so impressed with Garbo's messages that he was awarded the Iron Cross. At the same time, Britain awarded him an OBE, making him the only person to receive war medals from both sides of the same war. After the war,
Wait.
Puyol feared that the Nazis would be looking for him.
Oh,
and
okay.
so he
After
faked his
the
own
war.
death
Okay,
after the
okay.
war.
Well, when he said about the medals, I was like, wait, they gave him a medal after he did all that to them? I was like, well, what was that? But no, okay, that was after. Okay, now I see.
Puyol feared that the Nazis would be looking for him, and so he faked his own death and moved to Venezuela.
I do the same.
And just
I
like
do the
that,
same.
he was gone. Amazingly, this whole story would have never been told if it hadn't been for Nigel West, a writer from London. He was determined to track Garbo down, and so he got hold of a Barcelona phone directory and called every Juan Garcia in the area. As you can imagine, there were many.
Bro was addicted to for
Eventually,
this story.
one of Garbo's nephews picked up the phone and helped him make contact with Garbo. 40 years had gone by, but after a lot of convincing, Garbo eventually agreed to come over to Europe, where he visited Normandy and realized just how many lives he had saved.
Jo no volia lluitar amb les armes.
Oh shit, he spoke to
Perquè les
him.
armes són contràries a mi. Jo vaig fer la guerra.
Wait.
Jo no volia lluitar
I didn't want to fight with
amb les
weapons
armes. Perquè les armes són
because weapons are against my
contràries a mi.
beliefs.
Jo vaig fer la guerra
I fought the war,
i tinc
and
l'orgull
I'm proud to say
de dir que no vaig
that I
disparar un
didn't
sol
fire a single shot.
És que baix el meu
And I'm like, come on, since there is no
consciència
death.
que mort.
God damn, bro.
Thanks for
Can you? Oh my God, that's such a
watching,
legendary
and
thing
I'll
to
see-
say, chat. That is such a legendary thing to say. I fought the war, but I didn't shoot a single shot. But he saved many lives. Motherfucking legend, chat. This motherfucking worst spy, the greatest worst spy ever. That was honestly a great story. Hey, but YouTube, if you enjoyed that, make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that notification, and comment down below what you think. And with that being said, peace.